You're sitting there right now thinking about her, replaying conversations, wondering if she's thinking about you, asking yourself if she misses you yet. And I'm here to tell you something that most men can't handle. She doesn't miss you when you're begging for her time. She doesn't miss you when you're watching her every move. She doesn't miss you when you're waiting by your phone. She starts missing you when you become the man she can no longer reach. Not when you tell her you've changed, not when you post a picture hoping she notices, but when your entire life is unrecognizable from the one she walked away from. That's when the missing hits, because now you're not the man she left, you're the man she can't get back. And this is where most of you fail. You spend weeks, months, even years circling the wreckage of a dead relationship, feeding her ego with your attention, giving her free access to the parts of you she no longer deserves. All you're doing is confirming her belief that she can walk away and still keep you in her pocket. But if you want her to miss you for real, you have to disappear from her reality without disappearing from your own. That means filling your days with purpose so strong that she's no longer the center of your thoughts. That means applying Stoicism in the truest sense, focusing only on what you can control, which is your actions, your standards, your discipline. Stoicism isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about caring so deeply about your own growth that nothing outside of you can pull you off your path. Imagine this. She checks your profile out of habit and realizes your life is moving without her. New achievements, new connections, a healthier, sharper, more focused version of you. No cryptic quotes aimed at her, no desperate attempts to prove a point, just progress so undeniable she can't ignore it. That's when her ego starts to crack, when she starts asking herself why she's no longer in your world. But here's the twist. By the time that happens, you won't even be waiting for it. You'll be too busy building, too busy leveling up, too busy living by a code that puts your mission above everything else. The truth is, when she finally starts missing you, it won't be because of anything you said. It will be because of who you became. Here's when she really starts missing you. Number 1, when her ego finally breaks. Right now, she's sitting there telling herself a story that keeps her comfortable, a story that lets her believe she made the right choice, that she's still on top, that you'll eventually come back around like every other man who's ever given her attention. In her mind, you're predictable. You'll react to her bait posts. You'll like her photos. You'll send a message on her birthday. You'll keep that door open just wide enough for her to step back in when she feels like it. That belief is her safety net, and as long as it stays intact, she feels no loss. But ego is fragile, and it starts to break the moment you behave in a way she can't explain or control. You stop checking in. You stop reacting to her indirect jabs online. You don't appear in her notifications at all. She starts to notice the silence, and not the kind where you're waiting for her to make the first move. The kind where you've clearly moved on to something more important than keeping her entertained. And that's when the cracks start forming in the story she's been telling herself. She replays the last conversation, the last time she saw you, the last look in your eyes before you walked away, and she starts wondering if she underestimated you. The same pride that told her she was irreplaceable now has to face the fact that you are building a life without her. And that realization stings deeper than any argument or confrontation ever could. You don't break her ego with loud gestures. You break it by becoming unshakable, by pouring the energy you used to spend chasing her into building your health, your wealth, your skills, your network, your discipline. This isn't about making her jealous. It's about making yourself so valuable, so focused, so high caliber that her presence becomes irrelevant. And when she finally sees the gap between who you were when she left and who you are now, the weight of her decision will hit her harder than she's prepared for. The solution for you is simple but not easy. Stop waiting for her ego to crumble on its own. Make it happen by removing her access to you entirely, replacing the time and mental space she once occupied with progress so undeniable she has no choice but to notice. The more you invest in yourself, the weaker her grip on the narrative becomes, until one day she wakes up and realizes the story she built around her pride has fallen apart, and the man she thought would always be there has moved on to a level she can't reach. And if you're ready to take this even further, to not just understand why her ego breaks, but to master every psychological and strategic step that puts you in full control of your relationships, I've put everything into the Stoic Relationship Blueprint. This isn't some generic advice you'll forget tomorrow. This is a lifetime playbook you'll own forever, something you can go back to anytime you need clarity, strength, or direction, whether it's the first day after a breakup or 5 years into building a stronger, unshakable self. It's linked in the comments. If you've ever wished you had a guide that spoke directly to your situation, stripped of games, rooted in timeless Stoic principles, and designed to keep you from ever being in this position again, this is it. And once it's yours, no one can take it from you. Number 2. When you're unavailable. A woman can only take a man for granted when she believes his time, attention, and presence are always within reach. The second she feels certain that no matter what she does, cancels plans, ignores messages, flirts with other men, you'll still be there, she stops seeing you as a priority and starts seeing you as an option. This is where most men destroy their own value without realizing it. They respond instantly, even when they're in the middle of something important. They drop their commitments to fit into her schedule. They train her to believe that her time matters more than theirs. And then they wonder why she's no longer excited to see them. The moment she truly starts missing you is when she loses that certainty. When she sends a message and doesn't get a reply for hours because you're genuinely occupied, not faking busyness, but living a life that demands your full attention. When she asks to see you and you can't just make it work because your commitments to your career, your fitness, your family, or your goals come first. The irony is, the less you make yourself available on demand, the more valuable your time becomes in her eyes. You're no longer the man who exists to orbit her. You're the man whose schedule has to be earned. This is Stoic discipline in its purest form, controlling what you can control, which is your time, your energy, and the direction of your life. When you apply this, you force her to confront a reality she didn't expect. She no longer has the same access she once took for granted, and it's in that absence, in that sudden lack of guaranteed attention, that she begins to miss you for real. The solution is not to play games. It's to actually become unavailable by filling your calendar with pursuits that make you a better man every single day. Sign up for that course. Hit the gym at the same time every morning. Build that side business. Travel. Spend time with people who inspire you. Structure your life in a way that leaves no room for constant availability, and she'll feel the shift immediately. Because when you stop being the man who drops everything for her and start being the man who's building something she can't distract you from, she realizes she's losing influence, and that's when the missing begins. Number 3. When attention feels hollow. In the beginning, she feeds off attention like it's oxygen, believing that the constant validation from strangers somehow proves her worth. But the reality is that this kind of attention is shallow and transactional. It's easy to get and even easier to lose, and while it may give her a temporary sense of power, it does nothing to provide the depth or security she once had when she was with you. She can go out, wear something revealing, collect 100 compliments, and still come home to an empty bed, feeling an emptiness she can't quite name, because deep down she knows that these men aren't interested in her essence, her soul, or her struggles. They want the surface, the highlight reel, the curated version of her that anyone can have for the right moment, but they don't care about her reality, her flaws, or her dreams. That's when the comparison begins without her wanting it to, because no matter how much she pretends she's living her best life, those shallow conversations after midnight don't hit the same as your late-night talks about her fears and ambitions. The fleeting glances she gets from strangers don't compare to the way you used to study her face like you were reading a favorite book. and the transactional nature of this new attention starts to wear thin until it feels cheap and repetitive. The more she chases it, the less satisfied she becomes. And that's exactly why you never chase her after she's gone, because you allow her to exhaust that cycle, to keep running toward that next dopamine hit, until she realizes that no matter how many people notice her, none of them really see her. That's when she starts to remember what it felt like to be known, to be understood without having to explain herself. And she realizes she traded depth for noise. If you want to ensure she feels that contrast, you have to make sure you never fall into the trap of being just another source of shallow validation. You must elevate yourself to a level where your attention is rare, valuable, and given only to those who truly earn it. Because when your attention is scarce, it's powerful, and when she no longer has it, she'll feel the void every time someone else fails to fill it. To turn this to your advantage, redirect the energy you once gave her into pursuits that sharpen your mind and strengthen your body. Because when you live a life full of purpose, you naturally become the kind of man whose attention is worth far more than likes, comments, or flirtation from strangers. And in that transformation, you not only make her miss you, you make yourself impossible to replace. Number 4. When she can't trigger you anymore. One of the most powerful shifts in any man's life is the day he realizes that no one controls his emotional responses except him, because the truth is, many women test men, consciously or not, to measure their influence. They'll say things designed to provoke jealousy. They'll bring up other men to gauge your reaction. They'll make subtle digs to see if you'll get defensive. They'll withhold affection to watch you chase, and as long as you react exactly as expected, they feel they have the upper hand. But the moment you stop giving them the satisfaction of a visible reaction, the dynamic changes completely. When she throws out a comment meant to spark insecurity, and you respond with calm indifference, not fake composure but genuine self-control rooted in knowing your worth, she starts to question whether she ever had the kind of hold over you that she thought she did. And the more she fails to get the reaction she's fishing for, the more powerless she feels in the interaction. This is why mastering emotional discipline is non-negotiable for a man who wants to command respect in relationships. You must train yourself to respond, not react, to evaluate whether something deserves your energy before you give it, and to detach your self-worth from anyone else's opinion or approval. When she realizes her old strategies don't work anymore, she's forced to see you differently, not as a man she can manipulate into giving her attention, but as a man who lives by his own code, whose emotions are his to command. This is not about being cold for the sake of it. It's about valuing your peace so much that you refuse to let anyone disrupt it without reason. And when you operate from this place, you stop being predictable. You stop being easy to read, and that unpredictability creates a tension she's not used to, because she can't control the game if she doesn't know the rules. To put this into action, start catching yourself in those moments where you would normally react. The passive-aggressive text, the pointed comment, the provocative social media post. And instead of feeding it with energy, let it die in silence while you continue focusing on your priorities. Every time you choose discipline over reaction, you reclaim control, and the longer you sustain that control, the more she feels the loss of influence, and that's when the missing begins in earnest, because without the ability to pull your strings, she's left with nothing but the memory of when she could. Number 5. When she realizes she's replaceable. At first, she's convinced that no matter what happens, no matter how badly she treats you, no matter how many times she disrespects the relationship, she is irreplaceable in your eyes because she's been conditioned by past experiences and social media to believe that she's the one bringing all the value, that she is the prize, that you will never find another woman like her, and she leans on that belief to behave in ways she would never dare if she actually thought you had options. But here's where most men make their mistake. They validate this illusion by tolerating bad behavior, by putting her on a pedestal, by making her the center of their universe, even when she's not reciprocating. And the longer you do that, the deeper she believes she's untouchable. The turning point comes when your actions completely shatter that narrative, when she sees with her own eyes that you can and will replace her if she no longer adds value to your life, when she witnesses you thriving in the absence of her presence, not chasing, not begging, but building, improving, leveling up in every area so noticeably that it becomes impossible for her to ignore the fact that you were the catch all along. This isn't about flaunting a rebound or posting for attention. That's still reactive behavior rooted in needing her to see you. No, this is about genuinely living in such a way that her absence has created space for better things to enter your life, whether that's new relationships, stronger friendships, improved health, career advancement, or personal peace. And when you do it authentically, without the need to parade it in her face, the impact is 10 times greater because she will hear about it, she will see the changes, she will notice the glow-up that happened without her involvement, and that's when the panic sets in. She begins to compare herself to whoever is now in your life, or even to the man you have become, and she realizes that she no longer meets the standard you are living by, a standard she thought you would never rise to without her. In her mind, being replaced is the ultimate ego wound because it forces her to accept that she is not the pinnacle of your options, and when that realization sinks in, the missing starts immediately, not because she necessarily wants you back, but because she can't reconcile the loss of status, the loss of influence, and the loss of being the one you looked at like she was the only woman in the room. The way you use this to your advantage is by refusing to let her back into the same position she once held, even if she tries, because the real power comes when you have already redefined what you want, tightened your boundaries, and filled your life with people and pursuits that match your growth. When she sees that she's been replaced not just by another woman, but by a better version of you and a better life overall, she'll understand in the most painful way possible that her presence was never the only source of your happiness. And that's the exact moment she'll miss you the most, even if she'll never admit it out loud. Number 6. When memories outshine reality. She can fill her calendar with as many dates, trips, and distractions as she wants, but eventually reality slows down, the novelty wears off, and she is forced to compare what she has now with what she once had. And in that quiet comparison, memories begin to surface with a force she can't control. She finds herself in a conversation with someone new and realizes she has to explain her sense of humor instead of having it understood instantly. She's listening to another man talk about himself, but feeling no connection to his words. She's on a dinner date where the small talk feels forced and shallow compared to the depth you brought to even the most ordinary moments. And the more of these situations she experiences, the more the past begins to feel richer than the present. This is when her mind starts replaying the details she once took for granted. The way you anticipated her needs without her having to speak. The way you could read her mood from across the room. The way you looked at her with complete focus instead of glancing at your phone. The way you noticed the little things that no one else ever seems to pick up on. And it's in these comparisons that you start to exist in her mind as the benchmark, the standard by which she measures everyone else. The irony is that when she was with you, she may have convinced herself there was something better out there, but now that she's experiencing what better actually looks like in reality, she's starting to realize that those memories are not only unique, they're irreplaceable. This is why it's critical that you never try to insert yourself into her present after a breakup. The power lies in letting her own experiences highlight the contrast without your involvement. Because when her reality consistently fails to match the quality of what you gave her, she begins to feel a sense of loss that no amount of new attention or excitement can replace. The way you make sure these memories outshine her reality is by continuing to grow, not in a way that tries to remind her of you, but in a way that ensures that if she ever sees you again, the version she meets is a man who's even more complete, more confident, and more capable than the one she remembers. The more you level up privately, the more those memories gain value in her mind, because now she knows not only what she lost, but also that the man she lost has become someone even further out of reach. And when her present life continues to disappoint her in comparison to the life she once shared with you, that's when the missing intensifies, not as a fleeting thought, but as a constant gnawing awareness that the best she ever had is gone, and the chances of finding it again are slipping away with every passing day. Number 7. When she sees you level up. There is nothing more disarming to a woman who walked away from you than watching you become the man she secretly hoped you'd turn into while she was still in your life. Because at that moment, she realizes two painful truths at the same time. First, that you were always capable of becoming this version of yourself. And second, that she is no longer part of your journey. She might have convinced herself when she left that you'd crumble, that you'd spiral into self-pity, that you'd chase her harder than you ever did before, because that's what she's seen from other men in her past, and maybe she even believed that her absence would break you enough to come running back begging for another chance. But instead, she sees you thriving in ways she didn't anticipate. You're fitter, sharper, more financially secure, socially respected, and mentally composed. And the life you're living now radiates stability, focus, and ambition in a way she can't help but notice. It's not just the external glow-up, the better clothes, the stronger posture, the healthier body. It's the internal shift that shows in every interaction. The calm certainty in your eyes, the deliberate way you move, the way you're selective with your time, the way you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone, least of all to her. That is what shakes her, because she knows the man she's looking at now is not the same man she left. This man is operating on a higher standard, surrounded by better people, pursuing bigger goals, and most importantly, he is no longer emotionally accessible to her in the way he once was. And this is where the regret sets in. Not just over losing you, but over the fact that the version of you she fantasized about when you were together now exists, but exists without her. The sting isn't only in the realization that you've improved, it's in the fact that your improvement is clearly not for her approval or for her benefit. It's for you, for your mission, for your future, and that makes it infinitely more powerful. This is why leveling up after a breakup is not just a nice idea. It is the most effective way to reclaim your value and make her miss you without saying a word. But here's the part most men overlook. This level up has to be real. You can't just post staged photos in rented cars or drop cryptic quotes on social media hoping she notices. That's still orbiting her in disguise. The real level up is built in the silence of your discipline, the 6 a.m. workouts when nobody's watching, the hours you put into improving your craft or business, the decisions you make to cut out toxic influences, the way you choose long-term fulfillment over short-term distractions. When you live like this consistently, the results become undeniable, and they speak for you in every room you walk into. And the beauty of it is, the more you level up, the less you care whether she sees it or not, because you've outgrown the need for her validation, and ironically, that's exactly when she's most likely to notice. She will hear your name from mutual friends. She will stumble across photos of you at events she wasn't invited to. She will see you surrounded by people who respect and value you, and in those moments, she will feel the weight of what she gave up. The lesson here is simple, but uncompromising. The best response to being left behind is to move so far forward that you make it impossible for her to catch up, not out of spite, but out of an unshakable commitment to becoming the highest version of yourself. Because when she sees you at that level, and she will, she won't just miss the man you were, she'll miss the man you've become, and that is a loss she will carry far longer than you will ever carry the memory of her absence. Number 8. When she knows she can't come back. There is a difference between a woman missing you and a woman knowing she has lost you forever, because missing you can be temporary. It can be an impulse triggered by loneliness or boredom, but the knowledge that she can never come back, that the door is locked, the bridge is burned, and you have moved so far forward that letting her back in would destroy the life you've built. That is permanent, and that is the most powerful position a man can reach. In the beginning, she may assume that even if you're upset now, eventually you'll get over it, that time will soften you, that the history you share will keep the door cracked open, just enough for her to slip through if she ever feels the urge. And this belief allows her to live without urgency because she thinks her place in your life is a given. But the shift happens when she starts to realize that every day you're becoming harder to reach, not just emotionally, but in reality. Your lifestyle is changing, your social circle is evolving, your priorities are reshaping, and you are no longer the same man who once tolerated her disrespect or indecision. She sees you protecting your time like it's sacred. She sees you investing in yourself without seeking her approval. She sees you surrounded by people who match your standards, and she knows deep down that the version of you she left behind no longer exists. This is when the regret turns into a heavy, immovable weight, because it's no longer about whether she misses you. It's about the fact that she can't have you back, even if she wanted to, and that knowledge cuts deeper than any argument or emotional outburst ever could. The reason this moment is so devastating for her is because it strips her of the illusion of control, the idea that she could always come back if she chose to, and replaces it with the harsh reality that you are now the one who decides, and your decision is final. And here's where your real power lies. You don't get to this point by playing games or pretending to be over her. You get here by genuinely outgrowing her, by building a life so aligned with your values and your vision that bringing her back into it would be a step backwards. This means raising your standards and holding them, no matter how tempted you might be to let nostalgia or attraction pull you off your path. It means understanding that the same reasons the relationship failed before will still exist if you let her return, and having the discipline to choose long-term peace over short-term gratification. And when you live with that discipline, everything changes. Your self-respect grows, your confidence solidifies, and you stop seeing her as the only source of connection or companionship because you've built a network, a purpose, and a lifestyle that fulfills you completely. From her perspective, the hardest part is knowing that someone else may now be experiencing the version of you she always wanted but never earned, and she has to live with the fact that her chance is gone, not because of fate, not because of bad timing, but because of her own choices. The lesson here is uncompromising. The ultimate form of closure is not a conversation. It's not mutual understanding. It's not even an apology. It's living in such a way that her re-entry into your life is impossible without disrupting the progress you've made, and making peace with that reality so fully that you don't even flinch when she tries. Because when she knows she can't come back, the missing becomes permanent, the regret becomes unshakable, and you finally stand in the position every man should aim for. A position where your value is self-generated, your standards are non-negotiable, and your life moves forward without looking back. If you've listened this far, you already know the truth. The difference between a man who stays stuck in the cycle of chasing, explaining, and hoping, and the man she can't stop thinking about, is a code he lives by. The Stoic relationship blueprint is that code. It's the raw, unapologetic framework that flips the dynamic forever. So you stop handing out your value to women who haven't earned it and start living in a way that commands respect in every relationship you have, now and in the future. It's linked in the comments. If you want to keep playing the same game and losing years to regret, ignore it. But if you're ready to own the only guide you'll ever need, one you can keep for life, one you can revisit in every season, one that makes you immune to manipulation and impossible to replace, then get it now before the window closes. Comment I choose strength if you're ready to grab it. Like this video so more men find these truths, and subscribe so we can reach the ones still stuck in the trap.